Frances Elena Farmer was born on September 19, 1913, in Seattle, Washington, a city that would later become a silent witness to both the early glimmers of her brilliance and the stormy shadows of her destiny. Raised in a middle-class family, Frances was the youngest of 3 children. Her father, Ernest Farmer, was a lawyer, and her mother, Lillian, was a devout Christian and former boarding house operator. Frances's upbringing was defined by tension between her intellectual curiosity and her mother's strict moral codes. Even as a child, she stood out for her rebellious nature and independent thinking. Frances gained national attention as a teenager when, in 1931, she won a controversial writing contest with an essay titled God Dies, which questioned traditional, religious beliefs. The piece was provocative and bold, earning her a scholarship and a degree of infamy that would follow her into adulthood. She enrolled at the University of Washington and studied journalism and drama, 2 disciplines that reflected her deep love of language and performance. During her time at university, Frances was drawn into Seattle's vibrant theater scene, performing in numerous productions that cemented her love for the stage. After college, she traveled to the Soviet Union, a highly unconventional move for an American woman at the time, to study at the Moscow Art Theater. Her interest in communism and artistic freedom was born out of a genuine desire to explore new ideas and challenge societal norms. Her journey made headlines, with the American press alternately demonizing and romanticizing her. This only added to her mystique. Upon returning to the United States, Frances caught the attention of Hollywood studios. Paramount Pictures quickly offered her a contract, and in 1936, she made her film debut in Too Many Parents. That same year, she starred in the acclaimed film Come and Get It, which catapulted her to stardom. With her commanding presence, expressive eyes, and sharp intelligence, Frances became a star seemingly overnight. She followed up her success with roles in Rhythm on the Range and Flowing Gold, proving her versatility across genres. However, Frances Farmer was not your typical Hollywood starlet. She bristled at the demands of celebrity culture. She refused to be styled by studio professionals, skipped parties and press events, and openly criticized the shallow materialism she saw in the film industry. Her nonconformity made her a pariah among studio executives. At the same time, she longed for more meaningful roles, desiring complex characters and challenging scripts. But such offers were rare for women in 1930s Hollywood. Frances returned to the stage in New York, working with the Group Theater and collaborating with some of the most esteemed playwrights of her time, including Clifford Odets. She found solace in the intellectual rigor of theater, but continued to clash with authority. Personal relationships were strained. Her brief marriage to actor Leif Erikson ended in heartbreak, and her family relationships deteriorated under the weight of public scrutiny and private turmoil. As her career faltered, Frances began experiencing emotional instability. Her behavior became increasingly erratic, and she began drinking heavily. Between 1942 and 1943, she was arrested multiple times for public disturbances. Each arrest was accompanied by salacious headlines, feeding the tabloids' appetite for her downfall. Eventually, she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and was committed to a series of mental health institutions in California and Washington state. The treatments she endured were harrowing. Electroconvulsive therapy, insulin shock therapy, and prolonged solitary confinement were among the many inhumane practices she faced. Some reports, though debated, suggest she may have even undergone a lobotomy. Frances spent nearly a decade of her life in and out of institutions, largely forgotten by the public and abandoned by many in the industry. These years remain among the darkest in Hollywood's history and serve as a grim reminder of the stigma surrounding mental illness and the mistreatment of women deemed difficult. In the early 1950s, she was finally released from Western State Hospital. With little fanfare, Frances attempted to reclaim her life. She worked as a secretary, a clerk, and later found modest success as a television host in Indianapolis. Her life had taken a dramatic turn from Hollywood glamour to middle-class obscurity. She published her autobiography, Will There Really Be a Morning? In 1972, though some argue it was heavily ghostwritten and may not fully reflect her own voice. Nonetheless, it painted a picture of resilience and sorrow, outlining a lifetime of passion, pain, and struggle. In her final years, Frances Farmer lived in near anonymity. With no children of her own and her family ties frayed, She was eventually placed into a community-based care facility for the elderly, a form of an orphan house for those without family support. The vibrant, fierce young woman who once challenged Hollywood's power structure now spent her days in quiet reflection. Staff at the home described her as gentle, soft-spoken, and dignified, though occasionally distant and melancholic. Her mind, once sharp with rebellion and philosophy, now bore the wear of years spent in struggle. Frances Farmer passed away on August 1, 1970. At the age of 56, due to esophageal cancer. There was no grand funeral, no Hollywood tribute. Yet her story would not fade. Over the years, she became a symbol, a tragic muse for musicians, writers, and filmmakers. Her legacy was perhaps most famously preserved by Nirvana's song Frances. Farmer will have her revenge on Seattle, a haunting tribute to her spirit of resistance. Documentaries, plays, and films, including the 1982 biopic Frances, starring Jessica Lange, reignited interest in her life and legacy. Today, Frances Farmer is remembered as more than just a fallen star. She is seen as a trailblazer who dared to demand artistic freedom, a woman who challenged gender roles and refused to play the part expected of her. Her life serves as a cautionary tale about the cost of nonconformity, the brutality of institutionalization, and the immense courage it takes to remain true to oneself in a world determined to silence your voice. May her soul rest in peace.